So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions have quite a big decision to make on the offensive side of the ball this year. Well, the Lions finished with a top 5 offense in 2022 with a top 3 offensive line, great quarterback play, great wide receiver play, even above average tight end play from guys that you wouldn't quite expect. There was a problem on the offense, and that problem was the right guard position, with Vaitai falling due to injury early in the NFL season, actually having back surgery before the first game was even played. The Lions were put at a huge disadvantage right before the season started, as their starting right tackle and borderline Pro Bowl right guard was no longer available to them. Now, Big V has a big contract. Thank you to Bob Quinn for giving out a massive contract to a tackle that was undeserving, but Brad Holmes found a home for him, and Dan Campbell found a position for him. That was the right guard position, where in 2021, Halapoulivaati played at a Pro Bowl level, playing nearly 1,000 offensive snaps for the Detroit Lions, having just 3 penalties conceded and having 0 sacks allowed on the quarterback. He played at a really high level and was really a bright spot on an offensive line that 2 years ago at this point was also very injury riddled, right? Frank Ragnow went down very early in the season, and Big V, next to Penei Sewell, was one of the most fun groups to watch, as they would continuously run people over in the run game and were really sound in the passing game. But with the Lions' offensive success, despite Big V not being available to play, a lot of fans and a lot of people have started to question how valuable Halapoulivaati is to the Detroit Lions, and whether or not the Detroit Lions actually need Big V moving forward, or whether they should cut him, free up that extra cap space, and use it somewhere on the defense. So today, that is what we are going to be talking about. And starting off with Halapoulivaati as a player, we're going to talk about his stats, what he has done in the past, what he does for the Lions now, and really whether it would be worth that money to get rid of Vaitai and bring in somebody else, or use that money on Big V. So, Big V has 2 years left under contract, neither of which are void years, and both of which are going to cost the Lions roughly $12.4 million against the cap. That might seem like a lot of money for a right guard, especially when your center signed a huge contract extension 2 years ago and your left tackle has huge money being made with Jonah Jackson's contract and Penei Sewell's contract right around the corner. So that leads a lot of Lions fans to saying, hey, if we cut Big V, we free up $9.5 million, $9.5 million of which you could use on the defensive side of the ball, that you could save for defensive tackle, that you could spend on a linebacker, that you could spend on a potential number 1 cornerback, and then you could slide in Evan Brown, then you could slide in, Logan Stenberg at that position, and really just plug and play like you did last year, which isn't the worst idea in the world. Looking at what those two were able to accomplish at the right guard position, both played a decent amount of games, as Logan Stenberg played just over 200 snaps, so about 4 games worth of right guard for the Detroit Lions, in which he allowed 2 sacks and had 3 penalties counted against. However, the penalties primarily came versus the Philadelphia Eagles in his NFL debut, as admittedly he didn't have the greatest start to his starting career as an NFL lineman. Now, Evan Brown was significantly better and played more time at that position, playing at just about 760 snaps, allowing just 2 sacks like Logan Stenberg, but having 6 penalties to go with it. Now, neither of those seasons are necessarily bad, right? You look at Logan Stenberg and say, okay, he's still very raw, right? Maybe it wasn't the greatest pick by Bob Quinn at the time. It might not be the guard of the future, but Evan Brown looked pretty good. Evan Brown is significantly cheaper. He is a free agent this year, but Evan Brown is significantly cheaper. In just over 750 snaps, he only allowed 2 sacks. That seems like a solid guard, right? But Big V in 2021, the last time that he played 950 snaps, allowing just 3 penalties on the year and allowing 0 sacks on the quarterback. So if you look at the Detroit Lions offense, you can say, okay, well, they had a top 3 offensive line. They had great success from that offensive line. Why spend all this extra money to maybe slightly upgrade the position? And to that I say, why wouldn't you want Big V to be on the roster? Big V is one of the culture guys on this football team. He is the exact mindset that you want, and him and Penei Sewell have so much chemistry together, whether it be a pulling guard, whether it be, just pass protection in general. They work so incredibly well together. And if you have the opportunity to close up a rotating door, if you have the opportunity to go from 2 average to below average right guards to maybe paying a little bit more money but having a really solid foundational piece, borderline Pro Bowl guard, why wouldn't you take the borderline Pro Bowler? And that would give you Pro Bowlers at every position on the line. Taylor Decker is a borderline Pro Bowler and is, I believe, a second replacement this year for the Pro Bowl. Of course, Jonah Jackson went last year. Frank Ragnow went this year. Halapoulivaati is right up there with some of the best guards in the NFL. And Penei Sewell is likely going to make his Pro Bowl debut this season. You put Jared Goff behind that offensive line, and you put Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift and whatever running back you please behind that offensive line, who is going to stop that offense and who's going to get past that great wall of Detroit? Now, on top of just the pass protection, Halapoulivaati is arguably the Lions' best run blocker, and especially coming from that guard position, him and Penei Sewell absolutely move people out of the way. There was multiple instances last year where the Lions were running on short yards and they ran behind Penei Sewell because Penei Sewell is an elite run blocker. Unfortunately, Evan Brown is not quite an elite run blocker, and Logan Stenberg, despite having the power and kind of the nasty mentality that you need to run the football, isn't necessarily the cleanest and occasionally got beat on those runs. The one that really sticks out to me was 4th and 1 very early in the New England game where they ran behind Penei Sewell, but the right guard got beat. Jamal Williams was tackled in the backfield, and really that was kind of the first step to that game falling apart. Does Halapoulivaati make that block? I can't say for certain, but I can say that I've seen him make that block numerous times over the last 2 years, and he is very, very good at it. So, with that being said, yes, the money that you would save would be very nice. As I said, you would really cut Vaitai for about $9.5 million of free cap space, in which you could spend on a number 1 corner for a year, you could spend on a number 1 linebacker, a number 1 defensive tackle. You could spend about $10 million and get a quality player at pretty much any position that you please, but you'd also be hurting your offense in turn. And yes, the Lions played without him last year. Yes, the Lions were okay without him. And yes, if Big V is to be cut, if that money is to be saved and spent elsewhere, I don't think the Lions offense is going to fall apart. I don't think the Lions offense is going to crumble. But I do think the Lions offense is going to get better if he stays, right? The Lions, as of right now, have 2 guarantees next year to make their top 5 offense even better. Halapoulivaati is ready to return and ready to take his right guard spot back, and Jameson Williams is ready to improve and ready to start making big plays consistently for the Detroit Lions. If I'm Dan Campbell, if I'm the Detroit Lions, who, by the way, are not hurting for money, right? They could free up $10 million, but going into the offseason, they have about $25 to $30 million. So it's not like they're necessarily hurting for money and hurting for cap space at this point in time, and they need to cut him. He's not going to be a cap casualty. But even if they were a little bit tight on money, why would you get rid of your Pro Bowl caliber right guard? Why would you get rid of this player who hasn't allowed a sack in over a year of playing, right? He's played about 18 games now without allowing a sack, dating back to 2020 when he was at the right tackle position. And even going back that far, I don't know the last sack that Halapoulivaati gave up because it doesn't track game by game, and it's really hard to tell from all the way back in the 2020 season under Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. So if it's between the choice of a below average or even, let's say, an average right guard, if you want to move Evan Brown out to that position, why would you choose below average? Why would you choose average instead of paying a little bit more money that Big V very much deserves and very much earned, by the way, And why not put that back into the team? Why not put that back into the player that has earned that money? Solidify that last missing piece on offense and take your top 5 offense to a top 3 offense. Take those missed opportunities on short yardage runs and run behind 72 next year, because him and Penei Sewell will move anybody out of the way. And I don't care who is there to stop it. I don't care if it's Aaron Donald. I don't care if it's Chris Jones. I don't care if it's prime J.J. Watt. Those two people, those two offensive linemen, move people out of the way. And the Lions want to improve their run game next year. If they want to be a more balanced offense, be more efficient, run the ball better on short yards, and run the ball better in general, Big V is going to help you. And there's no guard on the open market. There's no guard in the draft that is going to help you at nearly the same rate that Vaitai will. So, with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. So with the question, should we keep or cut Big V? I'd like to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. Would you cut him or would you keep him at the right guard position? I'd be very curious to you guys think. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching the video. Until next time, and as always, go Lions.